been a couple days since we got the Firebird or the Trans Am up on the car dolly, and I decided I was going to start working on the floor pans, and been wire wheeling this tarry substance that they use for seam sealer, and I think I got about half of it on my face, but I'm getting it out of there so that I can see these spot welds and start grinding them out. I'll start to remove it. Some of this little pocket for the leaf spring is kind of corroded away, so I'm going to take the pocket off of the leaf spring, bolt up the existing holes, and then fabricate the rest. These come with little 3/8 bolts holding them in, and I think what I'm going to do is weld some 7/16, drill the holes out a little bit just so it'll be a little bit more heavy duty. And I'm going to have to do a little bit of reconstructive work here, get this blob of rust off of the inner wheel well, and go ahead and start cutting it out carefully so that we don't cut into any of the understructure, and get this piece out of here so we can put in the new one. So here we go with that. Well, before I put my floor pan in, I discovered that there's a little something missing here. So I want to go ahead and get this repaired. I got a piece cut out, and I'm going to go ahead and repair this and repair the other side and get this all fixed up before we put in our floor pan. Got a little repair work to do over here where the leaf spring pocket goes. So we're going to get all this fixed up before we put in our floor pan. Alrighty, let's see if we can get this patch piece up in here and get it tacked. Got one side welded in, and over here on the other side gonna have this piece about right there, and once those two pieces are welded in, then we gotta reshape the bottom and get it all welded up solid. I'll try to get up on the inside and weld it as much as I can reach, and it'll be a lot stronger. All right. We no longer have a gigantic gaping hole in our frame rail. We've got it patched up and both sides, and yeah, that's a piece of muffler pipe. It was kind of rounded and 2 1/4 inch, fit right in there. So just kind of blended it in, cut it off, and sliced it in half, and it fit in there. Still got a little bit over here to repair, and then of course our little pocket for the leaf spring. I'm gonna work on that next, but solid all the way up in there. Other side, not bad at all. This one had about that much dirt in it. I mean, packed full. I had to dig it out with a screwdriver and a vacuum cleaner, but we actually have a frame rail. So we're going to move on to getting our pocket fixed and reinforce it with some larger bolts. Going to weld them in place because I just really don't trust those little 3/8 bolts. I want to go with 7/16, be a little bit stronger. So we're going to move on to this. All right. Got a gigantic mess going on here, but I've got my leaf spring mount up in here, and got it sandblasted and primered. I got the 2 bolts that are existing bolted in, and I've fabricated this piece so that it will fit down in here like so, and it will give us a place to mount our other bolt. Of course, I'm going to drill these out a little bit bigger, put 7/16 nuts and weld them in place. And once we get this welded up, had to do a little patch over here. Got that all sanded out, and once we get that in, and a little more fixing here, get all this, I'm gonna put some POR15 down in through here, get that all coated up. Anything I can't get to up in there, I'm gonna use the internal frame spray, but starting to get it to where this rear floor pan will fit down in there. And of course, I'm not going to use quite all of it. I'm going to cut and butt it into this. This is all good here. Got to fill in some of these little spot welds that rip through. Do a little patch job there. Get this sanded down, cleaned out really good up in here. So we'll go ahead and keep on working on this. Get our little brace thing welded up in there solid, weld it from the bottom and the top, so we ain't gonna be going ripping out our leaf spring. I don't want to do that. Yeah, so here we go with that. progress over here on the driver's side rear floor pans, and got this all reconstructed, and got the little hole over here. If I can get my light to come on, there we go. Yeah, I got that patched in there. Of course, frame rail is solid now. And over here, when I'm done with all this stuff, I'm opening up a can of POR 15, and they're really hard to seal up and reopen again, so I want to get some POR 15 down here in the frame rails after I get all the rust wire wheeled and sanded out of it. So if I open a can, I want to be able to use a lot of it. And over here, it's not quite as bad, but it's going to need reconstruction over here. That's probably going to have to be cut out and, well, replaced. There's about 5 pounds of dirt. It's actual just dirt setting up in this one. Of course, we'll see what shape it's in when we get all that vacuumed out of there. And so, kind of the same deal over here. We got this little section of the inner wheel well kind of rotted out, so we'll put a strip in there and get that all repaired up. That gooey tar stuff, man, they put it on thick, man. It's like huge blobs, but one good thing about it is the metal underneath it is pristine, not a lick of rust, so at least it kind of preserved. Best way to get it out is just scrape it out with a screwdriver and then wire wheel it. So I don't want to wire wheel all this hairy insulation junk off of here, get that all nice and cleaned up. But so far, making pretty good progress. I want to get some more done over here on this side and start working on it so we can put both of these rear pans in forward, because it needs it bad. Still haven't been able to find a good deal on the toe pan, but we're still looking. But we got a lot of other body parts to replace before we even worry about that. So we're gonna go ahead and get going on this side. And I'm gonna grind away all these plug spot welds and maybe cut away a little bit more. Get that pan fit up in there, and we go with that. Okay, I got another chunk of the floor pan out and got it separated from the frame rail here. Up here it wasn't rusted too bad, and you can actually see the spot welds to grind them out. Down here where it was rusted really bad, you can't even see the spot welds, so you just kind of gotta guess or pry until you find them. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these sanded off, ground down, work on cleaning this all up so we can get our POR 15 in there. And I still gotta finish up my welding over there. My patch panels are just tacked, so I'm gonna go ahead and weld that up good and move on to a few other things like tacking a few nuts in here for the spring perches and make that extra strong, because we're going to have a little bit more horsepower in this thing. We don't want to rip out our rear end, and got to go ahead and get these seat belt nuts or whatever you call them separated from the old floor pan, get them cleaned up, and then I'll plug weld them onto the new floor pans, and a few other odds and ends, and keep on chopping out and sanding and cleaning up and preserving, and sooner or later we're going to have new floor pans in here. So here we go with that. I got to remove my pedal assembly to get up in there and work on the toe pan, but before I do that, the clutch pedal was way uneven with the brake pedal. So on that clutch rod, I cut open this crimp thing and discovered that inside there's 1/4 threads on the rod. So what I did is I cut down my the upper part of the rod and welded on one of these long 1/4 nuts, and measured and checked and double checked, and got up in there and I welded this little 1/4 nut to it, and it's got some adjustment. So now our pedals are sitting fairly even, so that way you ain't trying to go from the brake pedal to the clutch and hitting your foot on it, because it was like way up here. So now they're pretty even, and seems like we've got enough stroke, and that's one more little odds and ends that I got fixed. So now that I got that done, I can get all this stuff out of the way so I can get down in here and work on the toe pan. So here we go with that. All right, got the brake pedal assemblies all out of there, and I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and cut out all of the floor pans, and I've got toe pans on order, and these subframe mount boxes, this part of it here was pretty much Swiss cheese, and a little bit of it was pretty bad up here, but the rest is pretty solid. I'm going to repair some of this up in here that's pitted, but I've got me a piece cut out, and I'm going to go ahead and line it with my wire there, because that's where it should extend out to, and trace it out, cut that to that pattern, and weld it in place. And gonna do pretty much the same thing on the other side. And out here for this bracket for a hydraulic clutch, I'm going to weld it up solid all the way around, and then over here where there's a gap, I'm gonna go ahead and box it in with some small pieces, weld that up, and then that'll make that a lot stiffer for our clutch pedal. There's a lot of force on that. We don't want that firewall to buckle, so that'll make that a lot stronger. And I'm starting to get some of the tarry seam sealer out of here, and man, I think they got about 150 pounds of that gooey tarry seam sealer type stuff in here. I mean, they just went happy with that stuff. I mean, it is thick and globs. Starting to get a lot of it worked out. I still got a bunch up in here, and it's pretty tough. It takes a lot of scraping and wire wheeling to clean all that stuff out, but eventually we'll get it all out. Up here where the heater box was, they used some sort of putty. I guess it sealed up pretty good, because underneath where it is, it's all well preserved. But eventually get all that wire wheeled off, it is time consuming. And probably before I go ahead and weld in my toe pans, I got to get all this motor oil scum off of here, get a couple other things disconnected and cleaned up. So here we go. We're gonna go ahead and do our repair over here on this subframe mount box, and see if we can't get it looking really good. Got this subframe mount pretty well repaired. Did a little patch over here, this here, and of course this plate coming out. And I got all the flange for the toe pan all removed, all the spot welds ground out, and there's no access from there. But what I'll do is drill holes over here, clamp that over to it, put some tack screws, and then plug weld it here so that toe pan flange will be held in good. And I'm starting to get some of the welding done on this clutch bracket. I still gotta go here and put in some filler pieces around here to get that good and strong. Starting to get a little bit of the goo cleaned up, and that's kind of a before, and well, actually that's before, and that is after repairing it and patching it up. And over here I've got this little patch piece made to go right there. And then of course, this right here will be cut out a pattern so it'll go right up in there and fill that in. And once all that's done, then hopefully our toe pans will come in. But meanwhile, I got a lot more cleaning to do. And forward, I kind of want to get them all put in with tack screws, and that way I know that I'm not too far back or forward, get everything fit, and then I can do my seam welds here, and then plug welds all along the back, and plug welds in all the framework once I get everything all cleaned out and painted up. So kind of waiting on the toe pans, but they should be here in about a week or so. But still got plenty of stuff to do, start fitting the floor pans and whatnot. So we're just going to keep on continuing on this until we got a nice new floor in here. Alright, I've got some little pieces cut out here for to box in our clutch mount, and go ahead and weld these up to the body and then to the bracket. And got another one over here. I put it at a slight angle, it'll fill in that gap there and get it welded up all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and weld this up. I've got my clutch bracket welded up solid, and that's one more thing checked off the list to do. And before I put my floor pans in, I've been wire wheeling down in here in these frame members, and I just can't seem to get this rust out. So I'm going to use what they call rust dissolver. Back in the day, we called it navel jelly. It kind of eats away at rust, and then you got to remove it and use some baking soda to neutralize it. But I want to get these really clean before I put my POR 15 in there. I know that they say you can paint over rust with that, but I'd rather paint over really clean metal and get it well preserved before we put down our floor pans. So we're going to go ahead and start applying this stuff and let it set for 24 hours and come back tomorrow and flush it all out with some baking soda and water and see how it does. Alright, it already looks like it's doing its thing. There's some red goo, so we're gonna let it sit overnight and come back tomorrow, roll it out, flush it out with water and baking soda mix, and flush it out and dry everything down and see how it does. Hopefully it'll get all of that out of there, so we'll have some nice clean bare metal to weld to and whatnot. So we'll see how this does. All right, got all the navel jelly all flushed out, my cross members, and back here in the frame. Now I got to get ready to go ahead and prep it up to put the POR 15 down in here. After that, I can go ahead and start fitting the floor pans. I got a serious amount of POR 15 on all of these cross members and frame rails. So now when that dries, I can go ahead and start fitting the floor pans. This toe pan over here is supposed to come in tomorrow. Other side, don't know when it's coming in, but sooner or later. So I guess I'll start fitting this side and see how far we can go with it. So come in tomorrow. Hopefully this will be dry, maybe not. I got lakes of POR 15 in there, just serious amount. So go ahead and start doing our floor pan fitting tomorrow. All right, UPS man showed up, and I believe we have a toe pan. Well, at least one side. So, we'll see if this is the left hand. I hope it is. Otherwise, I ordered 2 right hands. That wouldn't be good. So, alrighty. Yeah. I do believe this is the left hand. Okay. Kind of goes like that. Well, boy, sure does look like it. Got our little hump there, hump here. Yep, I think that's gonna work. Well, now we can start peeling off all of our tape. Since we've got all our PR15 drying up and stuff, dried up pretty good, even where I put it on real thick. So we can start going ahead and start fitting things. All right, I've got my toe pan all fitted, and this area of it is going to be up in here where I don't have any access, so I scuffed it up, put some etching primer on there, and I've got my spots for plug welds where it's going to plug weld to this and down here. And I want to get this toe pan in first because the rest of the floor pans, now this center piece and the rear piece overlap. So if you start at the back and then cut this off and weld it in place, there's a chance that you're going to come up shy here. So I always like to work from the toe pan back. That way you can have the center piece all the way forwards as far as it needs to be, and then you cut your overlap back here and you have plenty to weld to. So we're going to go ahead and get this toe pan tacked down with some tack screws and clamped, and I left a little bit so that we can do the old cut and butt, and back here I don't have very much access, so I just left a little sliver. May be able to reach up in through this hole and pull it out of there. But so here we go with that. Got this cut out right here so that we can butt weld this, and when I push this down after cutting it, it left a little bit of a gap, but I had to fill that in. And now I managed to get this strip out of the back, and I got to keep this piece so I know where the rest of the hole goes. But we're a little bit uneven here, so I'm going to put a couple tack screws in to draw that down. Then we can run a bead there, finish cutting it out around here. We'll have us a toe pan in. So let's see if we can get a couple screws in there. Draw this up real tight. Yeah, that's gonna weld up real nice right there. Okay. Got our left-hand toe pan installed and went ahead and did some plug welds here, plug welds up in there, got it all welded up solid down here, got the rest of my hole made, and we're still waiting on the right hand side. It's on back order. And this video is getting a little bit long, so I think we're going to go ahead and do a part 2 to the floor pans, and we'll go ahead and finish them up once our toe pan comes in. Got everything else we need, but well, that's just the way it is when you order stuff. Sometimes it just takes a while coming in. So really appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for the part 2 coming up soon.